Greetings. Welcome all to Dorsey's Resource 873, the new channel. The topic of this video is going to be, how does the Python spirit refer to the Cabalist elite? I wanted to discuss some information I came across recently. I was listening to a podcaster that I've listened to for quite a while, and he brought up the Python spirit. So I did some research. I said, I sound like I've heard of that before, and I wanted to discuss it because something I had been trying to figure out as I had come under attack some years ago by the enemy. Some had even mentioned, appreciate the lady from Australia that had reached out to me, by the way, and she mentioned that she had done some prayers for me because of the information that I talked about in the past, topics that I had covered. There was a few subscribers, people that were concerned, that showed interest, and I want to say I appreciate that. And I wanted to delve deep into this, but this video is not going to be too long. I might come back, but I'm going to talk about the Pythos, or known as the Python spirit. By the way, I heard of this before from growing up in the Christian church. Many of y'all who know my background, or some that watch my channel that know me personally, I have friends in my immediate circle. By the way, I've heard this before when I talked about some years ago. I went through deliverance at a particular church service and mentioned someone that prophesied over me before many years ago, by the way. And this thing that's reoccurring because certain people I listen to as we delve into the end time. Some people say we're living in the last days, or end time biblical prophecy. And this ties in with the New World Order, what I wanted to discuss. What I wanted to point out and explain for those that don't know, according to my research, how this ties in with the ruling class elite, who some may refer to as the Illuminati, the Cabal. Some people refer to them as the Cabalist, global criminal syndicate. As I said, I am of the belief, in my opinion, they do exist. By the way, contrary to popular belief, there's those out there that would get called conspiracy theorists, and that's oftentimes used to try to deflect or make people who talk about these type of subjects seem like they're crazy. They flew over the cuckoo's nest. They don't know what they're talking about. But there is a massive cover up, and this ties in with politics, and I felt this is important. There's been a stranglehold over the banking system, and I wanted to talk about the Python spirit and how this refers to the cabal, the Cabalist elite, by the way. So without further ado, I just lost, I had some notes that I took, so just bear with me. Having some technical difficulty. I'm trying to go back to the previous page that I was on. Wow. To something else. Well, I'm going to type it in again. I really like the notes that I had that I'm going to go over. I had immediately, I'm using another phone, and just to let you guys know what's going on, this kind of seems like there's forces out there that don't want me to talk about the Python spirit, as some refer to as the Pythos spirit, that I believe has, in my opinion, has a major stranglehold on the financial system. I lost my previous notes that I had, but that's okay. I wanted to tie in with how this spirit refers to the elites. The Python spirit, or spirit of Python, is one of many terms associated with a particular set of views. It says related to the demonic world. According to some charismatics, see there they go. I'm reading. This is from online, by the way, so you have to be careful of that too. It says demons are the cause of almost every problem Okay, that's not what I wanted to. It's talked about those who believe in the Python spirit point to Acts 16:16, where the scripture refers to it says a slave girl who had a spirit of divination. That's not what I wish, the notes that I had before, I want to pull up. I was ready. I had pulled up ready to break down, and I had looked up. I liked the way I had used another phone, a separate phone, to show what it, when I looked up, it was a good definition breakdown, but I wanted to show how this ties in with the elites. It says, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Wow. And I'm trying to go back to the previous page that I was just at. Wow, let me see if I can find that again. So just bear with me. I have typed in, this says the Python spirit is a supernatural entity in some belief systems that is said to be an agent of Satan. It is considered an enemy of God and humankind. You guys remember, and I'm sorry if I sound like I'm long-winded, but I had to find my notes. By the way, this looks like what I just had pulled up. This is a overview. It's saying from the AI. I like this explanation, by the way. But remember when I talked about that event that I attended some years ago, that there was this elitist talk that I can pick up from certain people, this spirit. When I was prophesied over years ago, the person who prophesied over me, the individual, said that I had a strong spirit of discernment. He said I had a spirit of discernment, that I can pick up things. And that is true. When I did research on myself, for those that get in, I don't consider myself a religious person, but I'm more so spiritual. I don't do religiosity. That's a whole nother topic within itself. But as my principles or pathway that I use, think of it as, I'm going to delve into religion down the road. I have an interview that I never uploaded, on a side note, that I got some more notes from the individual I refer to as Mr. X. And I have some powerful notes to go over the truth about religion, Christianity in particular. By the way, someone reached out to me not too long ago through a friend. This is on a side note. I don't want to get too far off track. Where they told me about the faith community, and I might touch on that. I appreciate that sister sharing that information with me. It's like I see it as a support network. There were some things, that I kind of, some pet peeves I have about the particular group. I appreciate what they're doing. I think you do need something like that. It's Christians. It's a large membership, people that have discussions that have left structured fundamentalist Christianity and are, doing their own thing. They have different topics, like a support network to heal and deconstruct destructive theology. Because a lot of people don't understand these doctrines have a source of origin. This theology has a source of origin. You have to understand it. All religions, by the way, have a source of origin. You have to ask, where does it come from? It's important to understand. But not to get back on topic, it states the symptoms of the Python spirit is exhaustion, feeling drained of energy and wanting to sleep more than usual, heaviness, feeling like a weight is resting upon you. It also has fear, having irrational thoughts that lead to worry, anxiety, and fear. Torment is highlighted, having nightmares, unrest, or interrupted sleep. Next category, sin, falling into the sins that you had previously overcome. This describes, to me, in my opinion, a lot of people don't understand the ruling class elite. And some people may have said in the past, I've heard discussions talked about the powers that be. And there's philosophies from different people. Some say, oh, Dorsey, you're giving them too much power, or these are constructs. I get those concepts as well, but we have to use common sense at the end of the day and go back to, we live in a real world with reality. There's power structures, there's a caste system, there's a pecking order, there's ranking systems, there's people that are in charge. Let's not pontificate, play semantics, but at the end of the day, there is a ruling class. There is an Illuminati. Whether you call them Cabalist, secret group, we're not going to play those type of games. Well, I'm going to deconstruct and delve into why this is a problem. And this Python spirit, it was brought to my attention that we're going through a period right now where God is getting ready, the creator and spiritual warfare is getting ready to break, especially with this stranglehold, dealing with this financial system that's coming from the Federal Reserve banking system and these evil Kabbalists that are behind the scenes that have been manipulating this for years. This actually goes on. And I think this describes them well. They've used different mechanisms where they've weaponized our food, agriculture industry, our medical industry. You know, they don't practice, we know, real health anymore. They sent in, years ago, they corrupted our establishments, by the way. And many of that are awake to the truth, that know about nutrition. You know, if you look at the ingredients of a lot of the foods, products that we buy, they have carcinogens, they cause cancers and things. Many of you all know about the thing that happened during the time of the pandemic where they were trying to force you to get the you-know-what. Though there were those of us that didn't get the you-know-what, that stood strong, steadfast, while there were those that were trying to constrict us, to force us, like a python squeezes around you. If God forbid, or anaconda, how a snake works. A python is a form of a snake that's in the boa constrictor family. So these people have a spirit of python, pythos. And with those of us that are real, true believers, that are warriors, that are rising against the forces of evil, whether you believe that they exist or not, because religion has been used as a form of control. I am aware of, I'm heavily awake to the truth, and I'm going to delve, I'm going to deconstruct. I have a team of people. I've got a solid team behind the scenes, by the way, that's very, very well studied. And I would say with the four of us, with my team members, we could take on some of the best in a debate, especially my four of my friends. I can hit things from a much deeper aspect. I can go take a real deep dive. One of my friends that gets into science, quantum physics, I can hit you from that aspect. You know, from the energy, kinetic versus potential energy. So I took in school science. You know the difference? What's the difference between kinetic energy and potential energy? What do you all, you get down to what is your body made out of? Atoms. You know, on a molecular structure. What are the components of an atom? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. What is referred to as matter? What is antimatter? What may be referred to as dark matter? Quantum physics. That's a whole nother topic. That's neither here nor there. But I'm going to tie in this stranglehold. I was trying to figure out that when these people talk, this elitist talk, these secret societies, these people that are tied into these organizations, you can start to pick up on these things. And this spirit is in people's workplaces, at their jobs, not just people you come around, you interact, certain individuals that are in positions of power exude this Python spirit, this spirit of Pythos. And true believers are going to have to stand up. God is already raising up an army to fight the forces of darkness, because this is a spirit. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers and dark places. Where I'm reading from also talks about ways to overcome the Python spirit. Pythos, confide in a friend, pray specifically, use the word of God, and worship regularly. By the way, look at religion or Christianity, spirituality as a form of like how you exercise, a form of practicing, purging your character, disciplining your character. These are different disciplines, whether it's Buddhism, Islam, and I'm not part of any new age. There's some Christians I know out there because I grew up in this. They will try to say, "Oh, you're part of a new age," or "You're." No, I'm not part of anything. I'm not. I never officially joined any fraternities, or sororities, or secret societies. By the way, I can debunk that clearly. But I'm someone who's very, very well studied and educated. By the way, and I'm going to delve into my next videos, probably the different concepts where modern day Christianity and the Black church, by the way, specifically, where these concepts derive from. Credible information that can be researched, as I encourage everyone. I didn't give a disclaimer in this video. It's not really necessary, but what I'm going over mainly was to talk about this spirit of Pythos and recognize it. And I want to I basically tied it in with the evil ones. Once again, the Python spirit is a supernatural entity in some belief systems that is said to be an agent of Satan. It is considered an enemy of God and humankind. This would describe you heard about the elites. They practice eugenics. They wanted to destroy the planet, population reduction. Why are they trying to push? They're not telling you with the mainstream media, with this thing about Russia and Ukraine, is about the globalists, the powers behind the scenes with the European Union that are the private board members of the Federal Reserve. They're the private members. They're actually the bigger threat than China is the European Union. Those pushing that. They're puppets like Emmanuel Macron, who's loyal, who would try to help start a proxy war if Zelensky does do a peace agreement. Because the globalists, see, Trump is not the bad guy, as many of you all think. Because I had to bring up politics, but many of y'all think Trump is, he's the bad guy. Say he's capable for Russia. No, this is not what this is about. What the media is not telling you. And there's others out there, there's activists that are in the know. There's people trying to warn you. They're trying to go start a World War III. And then there's another problem we have where Iran, it was brought to my attention recently, has a beef with Israel. And it's alleged they have nuclear weapons. They're a separate threat. And that could kick off, potentially, God forbid, kick off a World War III. But it's brought to my attention very recently. One of my friends who's very well studied mentioned how Iran is beefing with everybody. That I didn't really know about, but I guess. But you know who's behind the scenes? Who has this web? This web. It's a large web that the way they operate. And I have to bring my notes because people out there want evidence. But best believe the Cabalists, members of the ruling class elite, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, Jean-Claude Juncker, Bill Gates, William Gates, whose father worked for Planned Parenthood, whose allies were Warren Buffett, whose organization Berkshire Hathaway. We know these elites are into eugenics, population control, HARP, Higher Rural Active Research Project. I wouldn't be surprised if their connection with DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, does experiments and things. Yeah, they're into this type of stuff. When the media tries to spin it, it's trying to do damage control and tell you there were no bioweapons labs. Like when we know what the you-know-what came from out of Wuhan. That wasn't the only secret lab. Even Putin mentioned about secret labs in Ukraine and told them, and I pulled up a map before Google scrubbed it off the internet, and I showed one of my sources recently. So I can validate, I can prove what I talk about. Matter of fact, if you follow my work, I even put it on my Instagram account, even though I know my Instagram seems a little bit different Then my Twitter account, my Instagram is my more liberal side. My Twitter account is my more conservative side. Just saying, I'm not a registered voter, but socially I'm a liberal. Fiscally, I'm a conservative. But technically, at the end of the day, because I'm not a registered voter, I'm apolitical. That means truly nonpartisan, not bipartisan, but nonpartisan. I'm not on either side. I'm not paid, but I can see and report and translate the information back to my audience from an unbiased perspective, from what I steal from my perspective, but using common sense and research tied in with what the mainstream liberal control, progressive control media that has a Python spirit won't tell you. That's manipulative. I'm going to talk about ways to overcome the Python spirit. I mentioned confide in a friend, pray specifically, use the word of God, and worship regularly. Defeating the Python spirit, discover the symptoms of this spirit and how it operates. But this is what we're dealing with. It's a stranglehold, and it's gripped the whole of our financial system and other aspects, the way they want to control people through the housing market, the banking system, which ties in. A lot of this ties back in with the Federal Reserve. And I found out who the private board members are connected, tie into the European elites. Because I asked a friend of mine, why is the World Economic Forum meetings, which is the daylight version of the Bilderberg meeting? Look up the World Economic Forum. It has similarities to the G20 summit, tied in with the United Nations. You know, certain countries voted to pull out of the EU. They wanted to use the European Union to bring in a one world government, a totalitarian government, by the way. That's a problem. It has been a problem. That's why they wanted to create the Asian Union, the African Union, the American Union. And we know certain individuals are in the way. That's globalism versus nationalism. But under globalism, the globalists, the New Order, would take over your local and state city politicians, even federal, on a federal level, and bring in and have a totalitarian rulership with the United Nations. Heard about this years ago, but I went deeper because I grew up in a Christian church. And I told you guys the story years ago. My mother, who wanted to kind of keep me involved in Christianity, when she taught me, I learned about the New World Order. I used to ask her about what were those Christian comic books she used to read years ago. She would get from the Bible bookstore. I was intrigued by them. And I saw the Four Horsemen was one of them. I said, what is this? And she said, I can't tell you until I had to get saved first. So to start learning, that was kind of my initiation. To start learning this information, I accepted Christ when I was 7 years old. Became a born-again Christian, just to get you back the first time. You know, I backslid, you know, may not be in fellowship, as some may say, according to the Christian theology, Christian belief system. So she said, before I can start teaching you about this, you have to get saved first. And that's first protocol. Then she said, I needed to be filled with the Holy Ghost as well, because that's a whole nother topic. I grew up, my father was out of the denomination of the Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal. My grandparents were Baptist, assuming my mother was originally Baptist, Olivet Institutional Baptist Church out of Cleveland, Ohio, to my father. But back then, they many of the churches they linked up too. It's a whole nother topic within itself, how they had things years ago where they intersected between the Baptists and but the Baptists were more laid back, by the way. But Church of God and Pentecostal were like the Apostolic. It's another variation of which comes out of the Protestant movement, out of the Catholic Church. Martin Luther protested the Protestant movement. So Apostolic is another variation, what I'm gathering out of similar to Church of God in Christ, where they had a strict belief system. So that's why she was saying years later, I got filled with the Holy Ghost when I was in high school at that time. By that time, I was at a particular church my parents were members of, by the way. But that's neither here nor there, but just going back back on track as I was discussing this. We're dealing with this Python spirit, and I was trying to figure out for years, and I said I heard this before. I was listening to someone I listened that's involved with the community dealing with the GCR. Someone in particular, I won't put his name out there, but I was listening to an interview he does, reoccurring interview, and I would say I'm a fan of his work. By the way, I like the information that he puts out. I think it's highly accurate. By the way, the information. Hold on for a second. I'm gonna be back. Okay, I'm back. So to finish off, I heard this podcaster. He's really big in his genre. The people that listen to him, and he's an analyst of time, a biblical analyst of different dates and things. He brought up this Python spirit. And he said, I heard of this before, and I was trying to get to the bottom because I felt something for years. Something wasn't right when I attended this event. And I said, that's it. I heard of this before, because the person who prophesied over me years ago, I'm absolutely probably 100% aware. They were aware of this because they will break down different spirits. Like you have Jezebel spirit, different types of spirits out there. These describe, demonic control, divination, things people could use to be manipulative. Their characteristics. I study psychology as well, and dating psychology independently, separate from a school, very intensely, many years ago, by the way. So I understand psychology. I also took psychology twice in college, and sociology, and business ethics and international business as well, because my major was management, by the way. So just saying, I'm qualified to speak from this perspective on this subject. But this spirit of Python, this Python spirit, I heard this individual brought up, and I said, that's what I was going through. And I didn't really understand at the time. And, I said, I want to do a video about this to be aware, but we're dealing with and what's going on, because I stay abreast of the independent media and the real information. A lot of people, I told you all, don't trust MSNBC, CNN, these organizations, these corporate control media. You have to ask, who are they funded by? Who are they loyal to? They're not going to tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. But the European globalists, I found out, are pushing for World War III. I found out recently, not too long ago, a friend of mine helped clarify. They canceled the elections in Romania because the person, I guess, who was running was seen as a populist similar to Trump. They have the backing of the majority of the people, the citizens over there, by the way. And the globalists that are in charge still, unfortunately, in control of the European Union, the Cabalists, the evil ones, are trying to put him in prison, I heard, too. They're trying to create stuff just like they were trying to do with Trump, make up stuff to lock this person up. This is currently happening. So the elites can go through Romania. I don't understand all the geography behind it. That's why I have a team of friends, people that I know are experts in this discipline, just like they'll give me my props in areas that I'm strong in, and I'll give them their props and bring them and gather information for areas they're strong in. And we're fair with this. When we disseminate information, my friend told me something recently. He was concerned about something I was still not too familiar with. That was a concern of his, that if the UN, United Nations, is replaced, he had a concern about the Noahide laws. Now, I don't really know about the Noahide laws. I told him to send me information I looked up, but I don't have enough information. But I had an idea what his concern was and where he was coming from. But he said that the Trump administration was contacted by Israel. I guess these very powerful people in control, and they want to implement the Noahide laws, and it will replace the UN. He said it isn't necessarily good in his perspective, but the UN is also a problem as well, because they're tied in with the evil elites want to follow a blueprint to bring us into a totalitarian one world government, a totalitarian state, by the way. I just want to also acknowledge I just saw in the chat section, Abe says prayers, says, my brother, glad to see you, sir. Appreciate you, Abe. Thank you for joining. Glad to see you as well. Abe says, I love Trump so much, so grateful for him. Yes, I understand. I know a lot of people, they don't understand what's going on. They think that I'm the one that's crazy, or that we're the ones that are misinformed. Now, I'm not saying just because you support someone or you have love for someone too, and this goes all across the board, does not mean you necessarily co-sign or believe everything that person talks about. But I will tell you from a biblical perspective as well, Trump is on a mission. And it's truly biblical that he survived that assassination. They tried to kill him last year, ladies and gentlemen. Despite all the flat earth people, they try to call us the conspiracy theorists. No, there was evidence that was a real assassination attempt, and it was a cover-up, by the way, that he was grazed in the air. I don't see how you can fake that. Blood immediately, I saw just because the way he reacted may not have seemed out of the normal or uncommon, but that was a real event. There was even a private investigator I tried to reach out to some years ago, if you guys remember, Doug Hagman. Many of y'all probably don't know who he is. I asked my friend, think he got him mixed up with another Hagman, but with the Hagman report, I remember him as a guest of Lisa Haven. I didn't know he was interviewed by on Band.video not too long ago, and mentioned him and some other private investigators went in Butler, Pennsylvania afterwards to investigate, and mentioned how they were followed out of there. They were made to seem like they needed to get out of there. They weren't supposed to be there. And I heard allegedly they tried to get the local police law enforcement to go along with it, and the local police law enforcement refused to. That's why it would have been could have been worse, and that's why it took a long time. But people were pointing out when they saw the guy on the roof, there's video footage of that. But liberals, crazy, deranged people will try to deny that. I'm just saying, I'm not personally a registered voter, so I can speak on these things. I can speak on politics and be apolitical. I've been consistent. I haven't been a registered voter since 2004. And the reason I always bring that up is to show I'm truly it's people that say they're apolitical, but they still, I admit, I said I do lean more to the right than I do the left, and I have my reasons for that, and I can delve deep into the reasons why. But the Democratic Party has a major, strong spirit of Python spirit, and it's being controlled financially by the ruling class, the elites. It's not a coincidence when Rothschild, Amschel Bauer, sent his 5 sons out and set up the banking system. If you haven't, you need to listen to the audio. The Creature from Jekyll Island was the Edward G. Griffin. They have the book, the audio session. You can look it up by G. Edward Griffin, something like that. The Creature from Jekyll Island. Look up the documentary Money Masters, Monopoly Men, and it will help give you the blueprint. Ring of Power, Empire of the City, that documentary. Should still be able to watch that for free on YouTube if they haven't removed it. Look up Ring of Power, Empire of the City. If you do have the funds, I always suggest go and support these people, buy their DVDs, because it's people that risk their lives sharing this information, doing the investigative research to expose these malevolent people that were sinister, that don't have our best interest at heart. By the way, let me repeat, they do not have our best interest at heart. These people are very, very evil. And I'm not just saying that just to say that, just to sound, but look into, go to band.video. That's where, I'm not going to say the host name, but that's where he's partnered with other media organizations. So even if you don't like him or you get tricked, that's where the real information is at, folks. That's the independent media. You got to stop listening to the mainstream media. The mainstream media is not going to give you the full meat and potatoes. They may tell you part of the story, but they're not going to tell you why all of a sudden they demonize Russia. What this is about, the bottom line noise, to clear all the noise up out there, all the disinformation. This is about the globalists, the elites behind the curtain that are private members of the board of Federal Reserves behind the scenes that are a bigger threat to China, that want a one world government, a totalitarian police state, want to create World War III. They want to take over Russia and China. Russia is the key. China started like their own version. They have another problem because the Chinese have their own problem. But the Chinese and Russians understand that. That's why they were also allies. And let me say this too. People say, because I'm explaining this, people say, oh, you must be on the side of Russia, on the side of China. No, I had to explain this as well. I understand I'm not a fan of communism, Karl Marx, Marxism, socialism. It's failed. And there's a difference between that and capitalism, but that's a whole nother topic within itself. The socialists, they try to use a strategy. They have cabal members. To sum it up, I came across some new information that was reported on in a real good video because it's come out. I was surprised that Joe Biden laundered $2 billion to Stacey Abrams to buy votes down in Georgia. There's evidence behind this, allegedly. And the individual was explaining that what the communists do is they paint the opposition or socialists. He says they have to rebrand it by a different name because they use a strategy that in other countries to take control of these countries or places, regions. And this is what they're attempting to do here through the Democratic Party. Is no longer the party of liberalism. It's not the traditional party of John F. Kennedy anymore. It's changed. It's no longer liberal. It's just like they accused the Republicans of going too far right. I say there's some truth to that. However, Republicans are not trying to pass legislation to have sex changes in schools, go behind people's parents' backs to vaccinate their children, stuff like that. It's not Republicans pushing stuff like that. That's why I can rock with the Republicans more so than Democrats, who are no longer the party of liberalism, but of actually secretly communists or socialists. By the way, they rebranded, but still the same thing. Karl Marx strategy. And what they do is their opposition, they paint them as capitalism as evil. Even if you're just middle class, it's wealthy and rich. So they get the majority of the poor, but they create a system where they bankrupt strategically, use the Python spirit to bankrupt the poor. Like they want you on welfare. That's why they always say Republicans are trying to take this away from you. Was Republicans actually created the original civil rights legislation. By the way, they won't tell you that the kind that John F. Kennedy used was based off the original legislation that was invented by the Republican Party, by the way, which was the party that freed the slaves. By the way, it was Democrats that actually owned slaves. This is a historical fact. Democrats voted for and passed legislation for the Jim Crow laws and the black codes. They were the Confederacy. That was the South. The Yankees was part of the North. The Confederates, that was the South. The Dixiecrats, south of the Mason-Dixon line. You go to Maryland, look up the sign, the Mason-Dixon line. South, that was the Dixiecrats. The South, they were mad. They lost their labor. They lost their slaves. Why did a lot of black families migrate up north? It's history behind this. Learn your history or you're condemned to repeat it, by the way. But the Democrats, they were slave owners, majority of them. And I know there's individuals that try to deflect. Well, you know, Dorsey, it was black people that owned slaves as well. Well, you need to look up the 5 civilized tribes, by the way. And you'll understand what took place with that and how we're not all Indians. That's the flat earth people. A lot of Hebrew Israelites try to tell you we're all Indians. That's not necessarily true. There was a caste system. We're mixed into the population. The transatlantic slave trade did exist and it's real. And there's documented evidence a year or two ago. This was in the Associated Press, the mainstream media. Not only did the Catholic Church apologize for the transatlantic slave trade, also the Dutch leader. This was in the liberal controlled mainstream media. See, they admit things. So I'll use stuff they admit publicly. That was public. So the flat earth people, Hebrew Israelites cannot be denied. What I just mentioned to you is 100% concrete facts. But we're not all Indians. When you study the phenotypes, the ethnicities of people, there was a caste system. They're mixed into the population. Not everybody's families or certain families that were melanated owned slaves in particular. And you need to learn the history behind the 5 civilized tribes, where that derived from. You need to learn about Sunday go-to meeting. Yeah, many of you idiots out there don't know that. And let me stop because I'm being a little harsh. But I have a team of people who are very, very well studied and can bring up receipts, books, things they wrote about, evidence that it's gonna trigger people. But the truth is the truth at the end of the day. Just like with the mainstream media, this thing is about the globalists behind the scenes. They want to push for World War III. They also, Cliff High's Webbot report talked about this too. And I know it may sound like I'm jumping all over the place, but follow me now. Cliff High's Webbot report and Dick Oligar that does remote viewing, 2 separate disciplines, because Cliff High used a supercomputer he developed many years ago. He was a computer programmer. He used to work for Microsoft that could predict future outcomes. Dick Oligar does remote viewing. Their information matched up that said in the future, near to distant future, there would be a nuclear event would happen. I say God forbid, but the bottom line, this whole thing, the globalists, they're trying to start World War III to settle all the noise out there, the misinformation. That's why they don't like Russia. That's why you'll see the mainstream information media paint Russia to be as the bad guy. They also, the globalists don't like what they're doing in their country. They already infiltrated many of these places, but they have their own leadership. They don't like Putin, and they're doing things that the globalists want, are into eugenics, social engineering, mutilation. They're big funders of the alphabet community, the LGBTQIA, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, asexual community. That's what all that then they call the alphabet community stands for. A lot of people just say LGBTQIA. See, the Republicans aren't pushing for that stuff. That's why I rock with the Republican Party more so personally. I'm for traditional family values, me personally. Just saying, everybody to each his own. I don't hate anyone. I'm not against them. I believe people, should be free. But when it gets to a point where they were trying to control or indoctrinate us into following their belief system and pushing for eugenics and things of that sort, I'm not for that, by the way. You know what I mean? Well, it said my browser had lost a connection. Okay, I'm back. Looks like I lost my connection for a while, but I've been going on for a while. I said a mouthful in this video, but I just wanted to touch on what I felt was going on about the spirit of Pythos and how this deals with this the ruling class elite, by the way, and there's some things taking place. But I'm gonna shut the video down. I appreciate you guys that stay subscribed. I know I come before you guys late. This is not the most best time to catch me. I don't have a show schedule yet. This was like an impromptu. I do a lot of my videos like this, so maybe down the road, check back with me. I do have some things planned. I do have a podcast that I never uploaded where I explained. It was really good. I found where it was at. It's my first interview. I wanted to upload, but I'm gonna wait. By the way, I have a guest. You'll just hear the audio version. I kind of asked some questions, and I interjected, and I touched on religion and things. And this comes from a credible historian who actually has receipts and has been overseas, by the way. And they actually study geology. They're highly intelligent, by the way. And I could go into some other things about their background and why they're qualified, and have books and things of that sort, and help wake me up years ago when I had questions when I was a lot younger, by the way. And I have never uploaded it before. It's going to be different, but just that may be for down the road. And only time will tell. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys for staying subscribed to me, joining Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to like this video, rate this video, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, take care. You guys have a wonderful, blessed night, evening. Take care, morning, wherever you're at. Deuces. I'm out.